All right, everybody. I want to welcome you to another episode of the Flip Talk podcast. We are live here again today on Facebook. And then, of course, you can find us anywhere else you listen to podcasts, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher, Google Play, any place else you find your podcast is where you can find this. It's everywhere. I am on so many platforms at this point in time, 4 years of wonderful content. Just amazed at how many people have been listening to this and learning from this. And I can't wait to bring you more. So I have an amazing guest today, Bill Wooditch. He is a superstar in his own right, been on national TV programs like Steve Harvey, wrote incredible books, and just a beast in helping people accomplish things they want to accomplish in their life. I know you do some sales stuff and some just all kinds of really cool, speaking and training and helping people accomplish some amazing things in their businesses. What would you say is your genius zone? If you had to sum up like what you love to do most for people, what would that be?
Yeah, I'm going to keep that first clip though, Don. By the way, I'm a superstar in my own mind. Anyway,
in your own right, not mine. I didn't say mine. Earned at your own right.
well, the thing that sounds the most sappy, but I come from this place of trying to help people, and it sounds like, oh yeah, trying to help. What does that mean? But really trying to provide an environment, a forum for them to learn and grow. And it's up to them. We both know this. You got to do your own push-ups. You got to do your own pull-ups. I can't do the work, but I can be there to maybe do the encouragement, provide the environment that's fertile for you to grow. So that's my biggest kick, is to watch people take an idea, just take an ember and make it into a flame that lights their path forward. That's my biggest kick.
Very cool. Very cool. So what inspired you to do that? I know I want to get into the nuts and bolts. We have a lot of the audience. The reason why I love to have individuals like you on that have just done some amazing things and help people in some amazing ways, is because a lot of the questions that I get about business in general or real estate investing or different things that, we talk about here on the podcast, a lot of the questions I get are fear-based. That's really the holdback. It's that uncertainty, needing that permission, that little push, or maybe a little tweak. And I know that you've helped a lot of people accomplish that. What was it that drew you to that? Like, why get in front of people and want to impact people? What was your purpose behind that originally?
Because I'm one of you. We all have fear. It varies by degree, somewhat by nature. But you know what, Don? Man, I love being the underdog. I now embrace what I once feared, and that's coming up with an idea that maybe I was less than, an idea that if I really put myself out there and really, really tried, that I would fail, and then have to look in the mirror and say, man, you failed. So it's kind of easy for me to draw back in my youth and not try because I didn't want to fail. I ended up in a factory, foreclosed future. Everybody else went off and lived their life, and I stayed in a town of 3,500 people because I failed to push the envelope and try. And that was my awakening. And I know, and I experience, and I coach and I mentor a number of people who live in the same fashion, who are, what if I put it out there and I don't make it? The idea is that what if you don't put it out there? You'll never make it. Don't live your life with regret. So that's my key thing. It motivates me. Show people they can, give them a way, then it's up to them to find that way and do all the work that it takes.
What would you feel is the biggest, the holdback? Like I said, a lot of the questions I get are fear-based. I know, as I kind of walk you into this question, I guess like myself, when I originally went to start this podcast almost 4 years ago, it would have been over 4 years ago when I originally started. It took me 6 months before I pulled the trigger. I had a lot of things in my head, that voice that says, are you really capable of doing this? Or do you really have value to bring? Are you really worthy? And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people struggle, I know, with that fear of success itself. Like, am I capable of managing that or living up to that?
Yeah.
So, I guess in that framework, are those a lot of things you interact with or encounter when you're talking to people and helping people and coaching people? Or do you find that there's like a bigger core issue that they deal with?
I'm going to give you the biggest one: confidence. If you don't exhibit confidence, no one will stick around to hear your pitch, your message. Doesn't matter what philosophy you have, how much you can help. If you don't come out with confidence, that's the number one big time stopper. And you know what? We all have fears. When we're born, we have two innate fears: fear of falling, fear of loud noises. Everything else, Don, is taught to us taught to us by teachers, taught to us by parents, taught to us by bullies that might chase us, ridicule, don't want to stand up in class and raise our hand because we're gonna get shot down. We're gonna feel less than. We're gonna feel the big R of rejection, and we're not gonna want to put ourselves out there to be rejected because it hurts, doesn't feel good. So you have to learn to understand the game, what the cost of success is, and you got to be willing to pay that price by understanding where your fear comes from. Where does your fear come from? You're never going to beat the crap out of it and get rid of it, but you can move through it. And you can fail forward by learning that if you come up short, readjust, take notes, do it a different way, but don't ever stop.
Very cool. What's kind of leads me into the people who are successful and the people who aren't. What do you think that dynamic is? Like, what is it that one thing they have? Is it, I mean, obviously they still have fear. So is it just pushing through the fear and being willing to fail? Is it, do you feel like there's more to it?
It looks to me like you work out. Repetitions are the key. You know,
Right.
the biggest place for failure is in the freaking gym. Right? You know how many millions and trillions of time I failed in the gym to get to a certain degree? It doesn't matter what you do in life. You're going to have to push a little bit and get rejected. So you're going to have to understand and embrace that suck, as they say, knowing that you're going to come up short. And I will tell you this, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. And I used to make 300 phone calls a day, got hung up on about 299 times, but I was looking for that one yes. And I was able to endure, keyword, able to endure all the no's because I visualized what would happen with that one yes. And if I could get one yes, I could get two. And I shortened the distance between where I was and where I intended to go by doing more and more of what really hurt until, you know what, it freaking didn't hurt anymore. And that was my key. Just keep doing it and doing it.
Yeah, I love you say that because that's, you know, that's really the way I have accomplished a lot of what I accomplished in business, or even putting myself out there in the space of helping people and coaching and different things like that. It's like, you know, I remember this one particular time I was on stage, and they didn't have the proper slide deck, and I actually had to stop and ask them to replace the slide deck. And I shared a story with the crowd there. There's about 600 people, and I shared a story with them that, you know, just a couple of years back, I was terrified of being. I like public speaking was the scariest thing for me. And one of the gentlemen in the stage and in the audience asked, like, "What'd you do to get over that?" And my response was, "I just did it." You know, I just did it. And that's really a lot of people in the industry that's, you know, for Flip Talk and real estate investing. And a lot of people's, you know, issue is they want perfection before they start.
Mm.
You know, they want perfection. They want to know exactly how to do it before they start. And there's, I don't know any other way to learn or to grow in anything that I do without taking action on it and figuring out what doesn't work before I can figure out what does work. Like I can't learn it from a book. I actually have to do it and bang my head against the wall a couple of times. Realize, okay, don't go that direction, go this direction. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just the way I kind of the lens I see through. Is that it sounds a lot that's a lot like your philosophy and kind of where you come from.
100%. And what we're trying to do today is the magic 4-hour body, the 4-hour work week, the 4-hour success, the 4 million in the bank at 21 years old, because everybody else has those cars and all those things. We should have it too in 4 weeks or 4 months. And they're looking for the magic. And the magic is in the work. And magic is in the work. And you know, you said perfect. And I will tell you this, that perfect to me is the enemy of good. And all we can ever be as people is good. And I'm like you, I was willing to roll up my sleeves, do the work. And I'll give you the key on public speaking. I'll give you a key on this. Right? If anybody in your audience is doing it, or they're meeting with people and they're intimidated by something, right? The event is before I went on one of a national television show. People asked me, "Are you nervous? Are you nervous?" And I was falling asleep in the green room. And I said, "Not really." They said, "Why?" I said, "Because I imagine how many millions of viewers, they all have the same bathroom habits I have. They all go to the bathroom. They're probably going to do it during the show. They're probably going to get up during my segment, probably go to the bathroom." Start thinking about stuff like that. It all comes down to just being human, and we connect with humans.
Right. That's great advice. That's great advice. Yeah. A lot of this particular industry is door knocking or going on appointments or picking up the phone and cold calling. And, you know, I think that just the perspective of it's just a person on the other end of whatever it is you're doing is huge, you know, for public speaking, as well as just basic human interaction. So I think that's huge.
Yeah.
So, very cool. So, you know, the person that's going through, I think, just getting started out and hitting kind of bumps and bruises along the way of their journey, sometimes looks at somebody in your shoes and feels like they haven't went through the same kind of struggles or failures, which obviously is something that you're talking about and sharing. What are some of the failures that you really ran into when you first started that you feel like are great examples of the things you ever overcame and something that somebody can learn from?
Oh man, I smacked, man. I made so many. I'll tell you what. I tried to emulate, tried to copy other people when I first started out in sales. I knew nothing about selling. Didn't really want to do it. I found it kind of distasteful. I thought I don't want. I want to be a manager of something, but I don't want to be a salesperson of anything.
Mhm.
And I ended up getting a really great opportunity with Liberty Mutual, as direct writer of corporate insurance. And I remember I would go to all these classes all around the country. They would teach me these scripts. How do you open? How do you close? What if someone says this? You do this, and my brain just couldn't. It couldn't do all that. I just couldn't do it. So I lost my first 13 times. 13 times I just kept losing and losing. I thought, wow. But every time there was a little thing inside of me. There were two things, Don. This is the most important thing. There was this overriding fear of going back on my basically on my shield, going back to my house, going back home, having failed. That was part of the light of fear that drove me forward. So going into a new opportunity wasn't as scary as going backward. That was number one. And each time I thought, I think I'm getting a little closer. I was getting a little closer to you. I'm getting a little better. And the final time, I just took off my suit coat, left the brochures in the car, left the script in the car, and I asked the person the most important question I've ever asked anyone in my life. It opened all the doors for me. Where are you from? Started to get to know the person. Where are you from? Oh yeah. How did you get here? Can I just ask you before we start? Don't want to be intrusive. How did you get to this spot where you're the CEO of this company? It's just an interest. All of a sudden, the barriers came down. The he's another salesman came down. You're getting to know that person as a person. It changed the entire dynamic. So all my failures before that, basically because I was trying to be something I wasn't. I wasn't being true to myself, and I always did the work. But you got to find a way to improve what you're doing. Because Don, three things that I don't want to run on with this, but three things. You got to ask yourself, am I in the right environment that supports my skill set? Can I grow my skills in that environment? And will I do the work and am I getting better in this environment? If not, you got to change your environment.
Yeah, no, and that's fantastic advice. And I love how you kind of peeled away the trying to be somebody else and just became what felt natural to you. And that's I think the hardest thing for most people to really grasp is, in sales or in business in general, in human interaction, being on stage, like I've been guilty of trying to emulate what somebody else has done successfully, and it doesn't ever feel natural when I do it. But when I'm just who I am and I have a conversation with somebody and legitimately care about who they are and what they're trying to accomplish and how I can serve that, it becomes a whole different dynamic. It becomes real. It becomes authentic. It becomes something that I feel passionate about and good about, and that feeds me to be able to accomplish the goal.
100%.
So that's huge. So, and that's I think something that the audience really needs to hear because again, a lot of them get caught up in their own fears. So in sales, obviously the personal touch is one of the things that made you successful. What do you think the key factors for the sales side of, what you've accomplished? What are the key factors that really, I think, drove success? I mean, obviously was it working 80, 90 hours a week? I don't want to say obviously, or was it some fundamental things that you just did, time in and time out that made you successful?
You know what? I made myself a deal up front. I said, if I can't outthink this person, then I'm going to outwork him. If I can't outwork him, then I've got to find a way to outthink him somehow. So it's kind of a bargain. But there are
Mhm.
three major things I think in success, on your way to success, that are just indispensable truths. One, activity is always going to rule your success. It's a numbers game, no matter what you're doing. You've got to have a pipeline that keeps expanding. If not, you're going to feel fear, desperation, greed. Fear, desperation, and greed, Don, come from a place of scarcity where you don't have enough abundance in what you're doing the work to grow your pipeline of suspects. They're not prospects yet. To turn them into prospects, you got to be able to think and then do. And the distance between your thought and a decisive action is going I think to a large degree, determine the nature and course of what happens with that account or with that person. Meaning this: you think about writing them something, write it. You think about sending the email, send it. You think about calling them, send it. think, do, think, do. And I think the third thing is to be able to walk away. I call it walk away power, WAP.
Mhm.
You've got to be able to walk away from a bad position with your self-respect intact. If someone's going to bend you over, you got to be able to walk away from that and not chase the money. You've got to keep your self-respect intact. No one will respect you if you don't respect yourself. Those are three of my keys. There's more, but those are three.
Okay. And the walk away part is huge. I think that, again, in the industry that this podcast is geared towards, that is something that people struggle with, the ability to walk away from a deal, that fear that if I don't agree to a bad deal right now, that I'm going to lose it forever.
Because you don't have enough stuff that you're working on. For instance,
Right.
some of my sales reps, if you're working on 6 or 7 on a certain expiration date or month, you might get 2 or 3 even if you're a good closer. It's just the nature of the market. But
Mhm.
if you're working on one, you're probably not going to get it. You're going to be fearful. You're going to have desperation. You're not going to want to be rejected. Every conversation sounds like an opportunity. It's not. You've
Mhm.
got to be able to walk away. And walk away power comes from having money in the bank. And the bank is this. It's more in opportunity than it is in actual cash checks. More opportunities lead to more cash checks.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the just the power of understanding, like, what a good conversation looks like. I kind of pulled that out of what you're just saying, understanding what a good conversation looks like, and being able to know when that conversation's a waste of your time or worth your effort as well, I think is an important dynamic of that.
Big time. Look at it this way. I've never known, and I've done this for mentoring sales reps for over 20 years, 27. I've never known a call to go bad on the first call. And I do this by design. How did it go? Oh, it's good. Good to me is a cash check in the bank. Okay, so it was
Right.
a long way. So what is the next opportunity? What's the next step? What's the next conversation? How many times will they meet with you? One time, pre-COVID. What is the next step to make sure we're moving toward that close, toward that yes? And if they're not taking those steps or giving you the information or working with you, you really don't have a qualified prospect.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's, getting to a yes or a no. I mean, for me, good is even if even it's a no, at least that it's, I mean, the maybe is the bad result.
Oh yeah,
So,
not
you
now,
know,
not yet. Let me think about
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Let me think about it. We talked to my cousin's uncle's brother, sister, and get you an answer in 3 weeks. Yeah, no, give me just in or out. We moving forward this or not. So, perfect. Yeah. So, what advice, like, I'm sure there's something that's I haven't even asked about right now that you probably think would be something that'd be a home run, topic or something to serve up for the audience. Do you have anything that you can share with us that I haven't even hit on?
Give away information for free. Give things away. Don't have an expectation of a return. When I meet with a potential client, I'll say, if I was going to do this program, if I was going to do this deal, some of the things I would do is this and this. And have you looked at this? And you don't need to hire me. But I'm just going to say, look at this and this. And by giving away information without the expectation of a return, invariably people will pull you back and say, wait a minute, let's talk some more. So I want to have a conversation. I also believe I'm a big believer in learning. I'm a curious learner. You cannot export intelligent information unless you consume it. If you consume shit, you consume garbage, you're going to export garbage and shit. You want to be reading and listening and talking with people like you who can elevate the game. And
Mhm.
you've got to be in search of always elevating your game because there's somebody out there catching up. There's somebody out there ahead of you. And I've always looked at it that way, Don. And I wanted to be number one. It was a burning desire to do that. Man, I had to do the work. I had to do the reading. I had to do the thinking, and I had to have the ability to converse with a person as a person, not a concept. Read more, learn more, listen to more podcasts, and make sure they're good stuff. Don't just follow Instagram stuff and memes on Facebook. I mean, it's a bunch of shit.
So what you're saying is it wasn't easy. It didn't happen overnight, and you had to legitimately come and with a purpose of service to accomplish your goal. You couldn't just go into for what's in it for me, right? I mean, that's my takeaway, right?
Every time you walk in the door, if it's what's for you, people see it, they walk away from that. They
Right.
won't look at Don. Don't look at the wallet. Always look at the heart.
Yeah, and that's I resonate with that a lot because I mean, that's what I live by is coming from a position of service. How can I help you? How can I serve you? When we're dealing with people like again, in the industry that we're in, when you're dealing with people, if you're not there to solve a problem, you're failing. I mean, you're just right. You're either solving a problem or you're not accomplishing it, because they have something, they have a need, and they're talking about selling their biggest asset to you, and that they got to know that in doing that, that's going to solve that problem. And if you don't understand what that problem is, if you haven't come with that position of service, you're never going to accomplish that goal. So that resonates huge.
I'm going to give you something. I've heard a lot about you. I know you're a killer. I know you're great at what you do. You come with high accolades and laurels, and you well deserved. But I'm going to tell you what I learned in being human and trying to be human instead of a perfect concept in a suit. And yes, I used to have a razor. Is I would tell people what I'm not. It was the most disarming thing I could do, because they're going to find it anyway. But I would say, I'm not the biggest at doing this. Well, okay. I don't do that very well. Okay. Now they'll ask me, but wait a minute, all your competitors are saying they do everything well. Tell me what you do. Now they're listening, they're not hearing noise. So I'm telling them up front, not this, not Superman, but man, my strike zone right here, ain't nobody does that better. And so there's a tendency to believe that, because I'm throwing out all the stuff, it's true, but I can't do.
Yeah. Smart. Great information there. So we have a user, just unfortunately it's a Facebook user here, but it says, I struggle with information overload, and essentially that stops them in their tracks. They don't take any action because of that. So do you have any advice for that?
That's a pandemic type of question, because we all have some of that at some point. We're trying to look for the perfect approach and not just take the action. Here's what I found, and this is the only thing I can suggest on this. When you jump in and take action, you have to be able to maneuver on the fly. Agility in sales is critical. Changing on the fly is critical. But if you're not in the game, you're out. You've got to get in the game. It may not be perfect, but you've got to engage. I see so many people with tremendous talent who are looking to polish up the perfect email, who are looking for the perfect word, the perfect sentence, the perfect phrase. It doesn't exist. Have a conversation. Stop trying to think about a perfect pitch, and get out there and have a conversation. Meet people as people. Ask them where they're from. Ask them about their interests. You really get to know them, and the things will start to flow for you. You got to get out there. I have that issue right now in my company, and it's something I think is endemic to the entire sales industry. Get out there and try. Get out there and do something. Engage.
Yeah, and that advice is money. That's the whole concept of, you just don't know what perfect looks like. I mean, there's no such thing as perfect, number one, but you don't know what it looks like in whatever it is you're doing, and you take an action until you take that action, and you get the feel for it, and you know how the conversation is supposed to go. So it's important advice.
Well, I think that the thing for the person that wrote that, and anyone, is confidence. And I always said this, not in a careless way, but I always said, I'll figure it out. I'll get, once I'm in, I'll figure it out. And what was the worst case? Did it kill me? No. So ask yourself a question. Is it going to kill you if you're not perfectly polished? No. It will kill you if you don't get in the game. The game will pass you by.
Yeah, 100% agree. And, I think that really is what separates people, the doers, from, the people who sit on the sidelines, right?
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be an active participant in this game of life. You don't want to be an observer on the sideline. And the spoils go to those people. They're not any smarter than you. They're not any better looking than you.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that are in there doing it, because they have that. They don't have the fear of rejection. They don't have the fear of being perfect. They know they ain't going to be perfect, but it's okay, because none of us are.
Fantastic. So, somebody that's brand new in the sales industry, like they're dreaming of making some money. They're dreaming of having a better life. They're dreaming of just, going somewhere, with their life, with purpose and passion. Obviously, they're new. They haven't really done sales before. What's some advice you would share with them about just kind of getting started? Maybe books to read, obviously following you, what advice would you share with them as far as that goes?
I think one of the most important sales books I ever read, and it wasn't a sales book. I read more or less on life books, on history and the greats in philosophy. And it was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which tells you that everything can be taken away except your attitude. And the ability to stay positive, to find the good out there, to find the opportunity when it looks like it's the most bleak, and to never let anyone take away your self-respect is paramount. And I would encourage people to find models, role models, mentors to watch, talk if they can, ask for an audience with people who are doing what they intend to do, and ask them what's the positives, what's the strengths, what did you have to overcome, what was your adversity, how did you deal with this. If you can do that, people will give you their time. If someone comes up and asks politely, what is it, or reaches out, I spend more time with people doing that, and it's a blast. It's just, I think this or this, and whatever I can tell you, here's the downside. I can't tell you what to do, and I won't, but I can tell you what could happen if you do these things, and then you make your own decisions. Mentors and models are key.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect. All right, man. Well, I think we got some really good value here. I love the mindset stuff that you shared with the audience. I think that it really validates a lot of, the stuff that I have been trying to tell these people. And I know you got some incredible books. I want you to share those with the audience right now. They're definitely good reads. So
First book was Always Forward, and the all my proceeds are donated to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. It's to the U.S. military, the fallen, the wounded, their families. And the second book was a Wall Street Journal bestseller, Fail More. And it's about learning from failure. It's about putting yourself out there. How do you do these things? It's not so much an inspirational book. I think it is, but it's not so much just straight inspiration. It's more how to. What happens when fear comes in this way? How do you handle rejection? What do you do with failure? How do you make it so you can learn from it? And I think that's been the biggest reason why it's a bestseller. It's more of a how-to than just get out and try. And I want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with a really good metaphor. And I want the audience to think about this at some point. You're either on the boat or the dock, and see the boat is opportunity. And opportunity is always, always leaving. It's leaving every second. The dock is safe. It's what you know. It's comfortable. Feels good. You don't have to put yourself out. You can shrink your lifestyle to fit the size of your paycheck. But if you really want to expand the size of your income to fit your dreams, you got to jump on the boat of opportunity. Not 1 foot on the boat, 1 foot on the dock. It's always leaving. You end up in the water. Get on the freaking boat. No regret. Thanks, man.
yeah, definitely fantastic advice. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you if they wanted to follow you. Where do they find you at?
Bill Wooditch, WOODITCH.com, or at Bill Wooditch, WOODITCH.
Fantastic. I appreciate the information you shared today. I think that, like I said, it definitely validates a lot of the stuff that I've been saying to the audience, and they need to hear from somebody who has lived it and breathed it, which you definitely have. So if you are getting value from the show, make sure you are liking it and sharing it. Make sure you are rating and reviewing. Make sure that you're passing the information on to the people that you feel like that may need it. Make sure you follow me at The Real Don Costa on Instagram. And of course, if you're interested in being part of a mastermind community, we have the Inner Circle Elite for people who are looking to build a real business, to build the right business and build a business with purpose. Join us for the next Inner Circle Elite meeting, and go to beinthisroom.com and check that out. So Bill, I appreciate your time today, buddy. Thank you very much.
Hey, I have you tomorrow on my show. This is going to be fantastic. Now that I know, man, you got me all fired up.
All right, perfect. Well, I'm ready to bring some heat tomorrow, so I'll definitely be looking forward to that for sure.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.